my name is Vasily, and in this video I'm going to present my elevator simulation for COM 3004 assignment 3. So first of all, in the first sequence diagram, here as you can see I'm presenting this on the screen right now. It's pretty detailed, but I will try to give a pretty quick overview. So what happens in this sequence diagram is that we have one of the passengers located on the first floor, and what they do is that they request a service on the first floor, and specifically they request a service for the up direction. What happens after is that the floor communicates this request to the elevator control system, and then elevator control system makes necessary changes to the underlying data structure that keeps track of the floor requests. And once this is complete, we have a main window class, which is going to call the move idle method on the floor on the ECS, and ECS in turn will start moving elevators. And as you can see, what's going to happen is that after a certain number of floors down, the elevator control system will instruct the elevator to stop at the first floor to pick up the passenger. And once this happens, we complete the floor request, and then the passenger is going to request to go to the floor number 2. And once this happens, the elevator control system is going to record this car request. Again, make the elevator move to the requested floor, and then once this is over, it's going to stop the elevator at the floor. Then the passenger will get out of the elevator, and then the elevator will be again ready for service. So as you can see, in this case, we have the situation where the elevator is located on the 4th floor. And if now I'm going to show my simulation, so here as you can see, it's running on the course VM. And so one thing to note is that my main window UI class has a size of 1000 by 800, which is the recommended screen size to have a comfortable simulation. And here as you can see, both elevators are now on the first floor. And now just to quickly make sure that both of them are on the 4th floor to properly simulate this use case. So first let's send them to the 4th floor. You can see that they have moved to the 4th floor. So here as you can see, we have the event log panel that logs all of the events. You can see that we have the first car which is closing its doors, and we're then going to have a second car closing its doors. And so now let's imitate it as if I'm the passenger who is now requesting the car on the 1st floor to go up. So first I press the up button. You can see that the up button was pressed. We can see that the elevator went down to the 1st floor. It's opening its doors. Now what's happening is that basically there's a time limit after which the door is going to close, so the doorbell sound. So now I'm inside the elevator, I'm the passenger, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to request the car to go to the 2nd floor. So I press a button, so I press floor 2 button, and now as you can see that the elevator was requested to move to the 2nd floor. Again, it's opening its doors and it's letting the passenger go, specifically letting me go in this case. And now the elevator closes its doors, and finally the simulation of this use case is complete. Now, if I go to the second sequence diagram for the base use case, this one is a bit simpler. So in this case, we have passengers standing on the 4th floor, and both of elevators are also located on the 4th floor. And now the passenger is requesting and is making a floor request to go down from the 4th floor. And again, through some interactions between the main window, the elevator control system, as well as the elevator objects itself, what's going to happen is that the elevator will be requested it will first be asked to open the doors on the current floor because it's already located on the floor of the floor request. And then it's going to be asked to move down, and once it reaches the 3rd floor, it's going to be asked to let the passengers open its door and basically let the passengers go. So now if I go back to my simulation, again, we have the case where both of the elevators are on the 4th floor. So to achieve that, I'm going to make sure that both of the cars located on the 4th floor. So now if I press, so now let's imagine that I'm the passenger who wants to go down. And so what I do, I press the down button on the 4th floor. And so when I do that, you can see that the car 1 is opening its doors. Now I'm pretending as if I'm entering the elevator, and then I'm requesting to go to the 3rd floor. So the floor 3 button was pressed in the car 1. And once the the time limit for the doors was out. You can see that the door were closed and then the elevator was moved to the 3rd floor. You can see that again, the doors opened on the 3rd floor. The passengers were let out of the car on the 3rd floor, and now the doors were closed, so the simulation was complete. The important thing is that even though we didn't see that the 2 elevators moving at the same time, this is still possible. It's just that the way that my use cases were structured, they did not really include the case where there would be 2 passengers doing requests at the same time, because otherwise the sequence diagram would get too complicated. But if we just imagine a use case where, for example, let's say we have 2 passengers and one of the passengers first makes a request on the 1st floor, you can see that the car is moving, and then we have a second passenger making the request on the 3rd floor, you can see that the 2 cars moved at the same time. So now if we imagine that we have passengers in both of these cars, again, for example, the passenger in the first car requests the floor number 2, while the passenger in the car 2 requests floor number 2 as well. So as you can see that both of the cars moved at the same time. So as you can see, my system supports both of the elevators moving at the same time. It's just that my sequence diagrams did not include the use case where both passengers, 2 passengers would be interacting with the elevator control system at the same time. And so now I want to continue on with the safety scenarios. So in the safety scenarios for the overload, what happens is that whenever we're serving the passengers and the elevator detects that there was an overload, it performs a series of steps specifically to display the necessary warnings to prompt the passengers to reduce the load. And once this is complete, the passengers exit the elevator, the system, safety events are cleared from the system. So now if I go back to my simulation, so now let's say we can imagine that there's a service happening, for example, in the car number 1, or like let's say, for example, we have, let's say there's a passenger at the 3rd floor that requests a car. And then the important thing to note is that here we have the buttons, which are responsible for triggering. This one is responsible for the overload safety scenario, while this one is responsible for the obstruct safety scenario. So now, for example, if I requests a car on the 3rd floor, you can see that this car was moved down, it's requesting. So now if I press this and I go here, you can see that the car 1 is playing the overload warning. The passengers are leaving to reduce the load. And once this is happening, the doors are closed and there was a doorbell sound. And so once this is done, now as we can see that the car can safely move to another floor. So again, in case if, for example, we're servicing something, we experience the overload, we see that the event was detected here. You can see that now there was a message displayed here. So again, if I repeat this procedure, again, let's say now we want to service floor number 2, and then in the car 2, I pressed overload. You can see that it displays the message. We have the event logged in the panel. And then once the load was reduced, now the doors are closed and the car is able to move again. Going back to the sequence diagrams, for the second sequence diagram, we have a case where the passengers obstruct the elevator entrance. This is very similar to the overload sequence diagram, with the only difference that now it's just going to be a different safety scenario. So let's say now we want to move to the 4th floor. Yes, we want to move to the 4th floor in the car 1, and now I press the overload obstruct symbol. You can see that the car 1 is playing obstruct warning. We can see the message displayed here. The passengers are removing door obstacles, and once this is complete, you can see that now we're able to close the doors. There's a doorbell sound, and you can see that the message has disappeared from the screen. Now going to the next scenario, we have the one where we request, this one is responsible for the power out signal, which in this case what happens is that once the elevator receives the safety signal, what's going to happen is that the elevator will be moved to the safety floor, and then it's going to play associated warnings in the beginning, and also when it's going to be asked to when it's going to ask the passengers to leave the elevator on the safety floor. So now let's say that we have both of our elevators. So just for the sake of showing both elevators will be moved, I'm going to move the car number 2 to the 3rd floor just for a second. And now I'm going to, here, as you can see, here's the button which is responsible for triggering the power out signal in the building. So once I press this, you can see both of them are moving to this floor. You can see that it has the disembark message. You can also see that here we have some events that log that both of them were playing the disembark signals. So you can see that playing power out warning, car 1, car 2, they promptly closed their doors and they started moving towards the safety floor. And then you can see that they both showed that the passengers were leaving on the safety floor once this was over, like they're back to their normal state. And finally, going to the next scenario, or actually the second last scenario, which is in this case it was a fire signal in the building, very similar to the power out signal, except that now we received the fire signal, and then again both elevators are prompted to move to the safety floor. So if I go back to my simulation, and again, let's say we have 2 elevators on different floors. So let's say this one, we're going to send it to floor number 3, this one to floor number 4. And now we press the fire signal. You can see that both of them are displaying messages for the fire signal, and then they switch to disembark messages once they reach the first floor. We can also see in the event log panel that they're logging the fact that there's a fire in the building. They're playing the door sounds, and they're also instructing the passengers to disembark on the safety floor. And once this thing has been complete, you can see that they're back to their normal state, showing the current floor. And finally, in the last scenario, this one is pretty straightforward. The passengers just press on the help button in the elevator, which in turn prompts the elevator to create a new help request, and then the elevator in turn establishes the connection with the building safety services, and then the passengers request the help from them. So the key thing to note here is that in the specifications, there were cases when if, for example, either the passengers do not respond within 5 seconds or the building safety services do not respond within 5 seconds, there's going to be a call made to 911. And the way I simulated this in this application is that basically we have 2 random number generators that's going to correspond to how long it takes for the building safety services to respond, how long it takes for the passengers to respond. And so if one of them is beyond the time limit, it's going to call 911. So in this case, what we're going to observe is that in some cases it's going to be successful, while in some cases 911 will be called. So now let's just showcase that. So here, as you can see, here's the help button. So let's say that the passengers in the first car request help, and so once this button is pressed, you can see that the help button was pressed in the car 1, connecting to the building safety services. Then you can see that the connection was established, and now the passengers are requesting help. So as you can see, the help was successfully requested from the car 1. Now let's just quickly repeat this for the car 2. So you can see that connecting to the building safety services. And now let's see what's going to happen, and then perfect, and then we can see again that the help connection was established, and now the passengers are requesting help. So in both of these cases, everything was successful. However, if we were to run it multiple times, we would eventually encounter the case when one of the parties does not respond. So hopefully this simulation was clear and it explained the aspects of my program, how to run it, as well as all of the UI elements that play the key roles in this simulation. Thank you so much for your attention. I hope you